Martha had always been the woman everyone whispered about behind her back, the chubby lady with a hidden fortune, the kind soul too naive for her own good. But what no one saw was how sharp her mind really was, or how deep betrayal could cut. 2 years ago, on a chilly autumn evening, Martha stood at the edge of a rocky cliff, her so-called family standing just a step behind her. They had smiles that didn't reach their eyes and words dripping with fake concern. Before she could even turn around, she felt a shove so strong it sent her tumbling into the cold. Dark waters below, the news spread fast. Martha had vanished, presumed dead, leaving her wealth to the very people who wanted her gone. They threw grand parties in her name, wore black for show, and spent her fortune like it was theirs all along. No one asked questions. No one wondered if maybe Martha had survived. After all, who would believe a chubby woman could crawl her way back from the edge of death, alone and broken? But Martha did survive. The current carried her battered body to a hidden cove where an old fisherman found her clinging to life. She stayed hidden for 2 years, healing her wounds and sharpening her resolve. The soft-spoken woman they thought they'd buried was gone, replaced by someone stronger, colder, and ready to claim back what was rightfully hers. Now, on the anniversary of her death, Martha is back in town. Her betrayers don't know yet. They still sip champagne under crystal chandeliers, blind to the storm that's about to crash through their doors. And as Martha watches them from the shadows, her heart pounds with one promise. They pushed her once, but this time, she's the one who'll do the pushing. Martha stood in the shadows outside the grand estate that used to be hers. She could almost hear her mother's laughter echoing through the halls, feel the warmth of the old stone walls that once kept her safe. But that life was gone the moment. Her greedy cousins decided her bank account was worth more than her breath. She watched through a crack in the garden wall as they danced and toasted under fairy lights, bragging about new cars, fancy trips, and all the things they bought with money soaked in her blood. She pulled her coat tighter around her. The world thought she had drowned, but the fisherman who found her knew better than to ask questions. He gave her shelter in his small cottage by the sea, taught her how to mend fishing nets and how to heal her broken bones. Each night, Martha lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying that final shove over and over. She imagined their faces, the cousin who pushed her, the aunt who turned away, the lawyer who helped hide it all. Over those 2 years, Martha didn't just recover. She learned to listen, to gather scraps of information from gossiping villagers and old friends who never guessed she was alive. She found out about the hidden bank accounts, the fake charities, and the debts piling up behind the family's fancy smiles. They thought they had one. They thought no one would ever come for the truth. Tonight, Martha slipped a small envelope under the estate gate, just a taste of what was coming. Inside was an old family photo of her, smiling wide, with a single word scribbled on the back. Soon, she stepped back into the darkness, heart pounding. They had no idea the woman they betrayed was already inside their walls, as the envelope rested quietly on the marble floor. Martha's cousin Claire found it first. Oh, goodness. She was the one who'd planned most of the betrayal, the sweet-talking ringleader, who pretended to care while making sure Martha signed papers she never understood. When Claire bent down and saw the old photo, her hands began to shake. But she quickly hid her fear behind her polished smile. She couldn't let the others see her panic. Not yet. Inside the dining hall, music played and glasses clinked. Martha's Uncle Gerald laughed too loud, his suit barely hiding how much weight he'd gained from all the good food he'd never used to afford. He'd told everyone Martha left him her money because he was like a father to her. What he didn't mention was how he'd stood there that night, silent, while his own niece was pushed off a cliff. Claire slipped the envelope into her purse and pulled Gerald aside. In a dim hallway lined with Martha's old family portraits, they whispered harshly. Claire's words spilled out like venom, but Gerald only grunted, dismissing her fears. "She's dead," he hissed. "You're letting your nerves get to you." But deep down, Gerald knew Claire was right. Someone knew their secret. Someone wanted them scared. Meanwhile, in the village nearby, Martha sat at a tiny cafe, pretending to sip her tea. She listened as two local workers talked about Gerald's unpaid debts and Claire's shady deals. Martha scribbled down every word in a battered notebook. She knew she couldn't just show up and accuse them. She needed proof strong enough to break them from the inside. Outside the cafe window, the sun dipped low, shadows stretching long across the cobblestone street. Martha closed her notebook, eyes fixed on the dark road ahead. They thought money made them untouchable, but they forgot that the woman they'd left for dead knew every crack in their pretty glass world, and she was ready to shatter it piece by piece. Martha knew the time for watching was almost over. Each night, she returned to her small rented room above the old fisherman's boathouse. Spreading out maps and papers across her bed, names circled in red ink, dates, bank slips, copies of deeds. She'd pieced together every lie they'd built with her stolen fortune. Now she needed just one more piece to make them crumble from the inside. She'd already planted seeds of doubt. A neighbor got an anonymous letter about Gerald's unpaid taxes. A local reporter received copies of forged documents Claire thought she'd burned years ago. Martha made sure each clue was just enough to stir trouble, but not enough to point straight to her. Not yet. She wanted them looking over their shoulders, questioning each other, slipping up on their own secrets. Late one night, she watched from the edge of the garden as Claire paced the grand hallway on her phone, voice sharp with fear. Through an open window, Martha heard her cousin threaten the lawyer who'd helped them fake the will. Claire's words cracked with desperation as she hissed about missing papers, about someone stalking her. Gerald stormed in halfway through, face red, accusing Claire of losing her mind. But Martha saw it in their eyes, the fear that maybe, just maybe, the dead don't always stay buried. Meanwhile, the villagers whispered more each day. Rumors of Martha's ghost spread like wildfire. Some said they'd seen her near the cliffs, at night, dressed in black, staring out at the crashing waves. The same waves that should have swallowed her forever. And now, as Martha waited behind the estate's old garden wall once more, the final piece of her plan rested heavy in her coat pocket, a single file that could ruin them all. She could feel her pulse hammering as she slipped closer to the door. This time, she wouldn't be the one falling. Martha's breath fogged in the cold night air as she crept closer to the back door. The old hinges still squeaking, just like they did when she was a child, sneaking out for midnight walks. She slipped inside unnoticed, heart pounding, clutching the file tight against her chest. In the dim light of the hallway, portraits of her ancestors watched from the walls, silent witnesses to everything that was about to happen. She made her way toward Gerald's study, the same room where they'd signed away her life that night. Laughing behind closed doors while she lay broken at the foot of the cliff. She paused just outside, listening. Voices. But not just Gerald and Claire's. A third one, deeper, unfamiliar. She leaned closer, the file pressed to her racing heart. Inside, Gerald sat hunched behind his massive desk, while Claire paced like a trapped animal. Across from them sat a man in a dark suit, flipping through a thin folder of his own. Martha strained to hear, piecing together their hushed argument. Her stomach twisted when she realized who the man was, a private investigator. Claire hadn't just been panicking. She'd hired someone dangerous to sniff out the ghost haunting their perfect lives. And the investigator had found something, or rather, someone. Martha froze as the man slid a grainy photo across the desk. It was her, taken from the shadows near the fisherman's cove. The proof she was alive. The proof they feared most. Claire's voice cracked as she demanded to know where Martha was hiding. Gerald slammed his fist on the desk, cursing her name, swearing to bury her secret for good this time. Martha's mind raced. They knew they were coming for her, but they didn't know she was already here, standing just feet away, close enough to see the panic they tried so hard to hide. She slipped back into the shadows, clutching the file tighter. The hunter had just become the hunted, but Martha wasn't the same woman they'd pushed off that cliff, and this time she had more than secrets. She had nothing left to lose. Martha slipped out through the back door as quietly as she'd come, her mind spinning. She couldn't run now, not when the truth was so close. She made her way around the estate, moving like a ghost beneath the old oak trees until she reached the greenhouse at the far end of the garden. It had once been her mother's favorite place, a quiet spot filled with wildflowers and old memories. Tonight, it would be where everything ended. She pulled out her phone, the burner she'd kept hidden for months. With shaking fingers, she sent the file to every local reporter, every honest lawyer she'd found, and the detective she'd trusted with her story. Names, dates, stolen money, every dirty secret Claire and Gerald buried with her would be dragged into the light before they